Welcome to the Sideline. I'm Andy Katz. Well, this is going to be a home for a lot of original content in college sports and beyond. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot of that similar content that I produce for NCAA platforms, Big Ten Network, and other places. But I needed a home for a lot of those interviews with the newsmakers in this space. So where are you going to find it? Right here at the Sideline. Let's get to it. And welcome, everyone, to a summer chat with Georgia Tech head coach Damon Stoudamire and Andy Katz. Damon, 500 ACC overall last year. You've got a couple of really key pieces back. You got good recruits coming in. It just feels like now is the time. Tell me about this summer, about why you think maybe it can really take that next step with you in this program.
Yeah, Andy, it's funny. This summer's been big. I've actually during the summertime, I'm usually hands off. I try to give guys a blow, and I do believe in everybody have to decompress. But this summer, we've actually done way more, and we've done way more because um, some people call it basketball burnout. You can get burnt out by being with guys in the summer, but man, I play 82 games a year. As a player, I played over 100 games a couple years as a player. I coached in the playoffs 4 years ago in Boston. We coached over 100 games. That's a long season. That's a long haul. And so the thing about this year is that I wanted guys to come in. I wanted camaraderie. I wanted to close the gap on some of the things that I felt like we didn't do the last couple years. And we have gotten off the bad starts, and I think that's affected our season. I think the last year, to me, we had like 3, 4 bad losses, and I feel like if we went 3 out of them 4, we put ourselves in the conversation to get into the NCAA tournament because of the way we finished. And this year I just didn't want to take that chance. So the biggest thing is conceptually getting things in on both sides of the ball. We got to play a little different. We'll be out there with 2 bigs. So I didn't want to go into August when we start school, just kind of starting from scratch right there. I wanted guys to have a feel for it. I wanted the coaching staff to get a feel for it because I feel like, we've been a team that's relied on spacing. It's going to be a little different this year at times. The spacing is not going to be as perfect, when we're playing 2 bigs, but that's okay. And we all got to get used to these things. And so these are just a lot of things that I wanted to do and I wanted to harp on and talk about and go over this summer. So we've actually done a whole lot more. And then I like the mixture. This group of guys that we had. The one thing about it when the season was over last year as well, and we had a lot of injuries last year, so that's the fault of no one's. But I just didn't think I don't think young guys play enough 5-on-5. You got to play 5-on-5 because you got to understand, the game. You got to be able to know the strengths and weaknesses of your teammates. And that's everybody. And this group has been a together group from day one. Everybody got here. Guys have been, pushing each other. It's been the most competitive group I've had. Now, with that being said, we got more bodies because there's no energy, but it's really a competitive group. We got about 4 guys that obviously you rely on. But other than that, man, I'm interested to see how this thing works because I feel like this is the first year I actually got real depth as well.
So let's talk about those 2 bigs. One, if we're talking about the same, both from Senegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
One returning all ACC type, one freshman that potentially have an impact. Break them down for me.
Well, before I even talk about them, just the 10 seconds, I must say this. I honestly think we got 4 really good big men because I think we got Peyton Marshall as well, who transferred in from Missouri, and then we got Cole Keurig, who to me is going to be one of the more underrated players in the country as his career goes on. 7-footer, and he's just tapping his potential. So we have so many options at the big man position, and I think that those 2 guys, especially Peyton from jump, would arguably be someone's starting center. But you have Bai and
Bayern Dongo.
yes, Bai and Dongo. He's been a pleasure to coach. And the biggest thing about Bai this summer, Andy, is that I've seen growth in the leadership category. I've always felt like as a coach, I hate guys that are moody. I hate guys that get that don't know how to express themselves, right? I've been a player, and there's gonna be a little back and forth between the coach and player, and I think that sometimes people look at that as defiance from the outside, but I look at that as all right because when your best players are telling you what they see, there's nothing wrong with that. If your best player is upset about something, there's nothing wrong with that. And I thought one of the best things when this season was over, me and Bai had candid conversations, and he talked about areas that you know uh, he wanted to grow in as a player, where he wanted to grow in as a leader, and things that he wanted me to do that could help him become even a better player. And I've seen that growth, through the first 3 months. He's been really good for us. He's pushing the players. Last year he had went back home and then he had got an illness, so he had lost a lot of weight when he came back. His weight is fine. In the second half of the season, anybody that's seen us knows that Bai was, man, he was special those last 12, 13 games of the year. So, Mo is one of them kids. I don't want to put pressure on him, but I've seen this movie before. And he reminds me a lot. I'm not saying this is where his end game is, and I'm not saying this is what it looks like, but I'm just saying just because we didn't see him a lot here in the States, obviously. He's only been here a year. He really reminds me of Jermaine O'Neal when I was in Portland. And if you think about Jermaine, when he first came in, he was raw, he was long, he was athletic, he can block shots. He just needed to get on the floor and get playing time. And, Mo to me is in that mode. They got the same body type. He really picks up things fast. He's probably timing wise, and it's crazy to say it because of, Bai is a really good shot blocker. Mo is an excellent shot blocker. He has excellent timing. He understands those things, and I tell you, man, it's something. The biggest thing, and Bai had this as well. And to their coaches, I give them a lot of credit because I can't. Me and my staff can't take credit for this. When a guard goes under, he does a great job of flipping that screen and getting off that screen. That is a gift to be able to do those things because it's something I wish I could say. Yeah, we taught him. No, no, no. He was doing that before we got here. But he's the fastest player on our team. He runs like a gazelle. He gets up and down. He wins every sprint. He never gets tired. So he's a freshman. He's gonna have some ups and downs. But when he figures it out, by the time we get to conference play, I think he'd be figured it all out.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you guys originally going to maybe take a foreign summer trip or no?
Yes, we were supposed to. I was a little hesitant. We had some visa issues, and I just didn't want to take the risk. I have a couple foreign kids, and I just didn't, not right now. It's just,
Yeah, it's
it
a
was
crazy
important. It's
time.
important, right, right. It's just a crazy time. It's important to go over there, so we pushed it back till next year. So we were actually supposed to go last week, and so we canceled. So, but yeah, no, we still had a successful summer. Guys got after it. We had a lot going on, and I was happy with how everything ended though.
And what about on the perimeter then? We've talked about the bigs.
The perimeter, it's twofold, right? It's twofold, obviously. We Nate left, so we got three guys. We got Lamar Washington. Lamar he came from Pacific, and a lot of people don't know. Me and Lamar are from the same hometown. He played football for my uncle. His brother played football for my uncle. He played in high school before he transferred. He played for one of my best friends and my high school teammate at Jefferson High School. And the biggest thing about Lamar is and he's a good guard. but I know who he is because he's tough as hell. I love his toughness. I love his toughness. I love his leadership. I love the way he talks on the floor. We have Jaden Mustaf, and Jaden is another guy, and he'll be a combo, but he's still a place of one, and Jaden, he didn't come back into the end of the summer. It's going to be interesting to see his growth as a player. I think the biggest thing for him, and I try to tell guys this all the time. I just tell Bai this. I'm like, man, success as a freshman doesn't mean success as a sophomore. Because I remember when I was a sophomore, man, I bumped my head, and it took me till league play to where I finally got on course. But Jaden, we need him to make a jump for us to be successful. And then we got Chaz Kelly, who came from BC. I think Chaz is a little better than maybe what people think. He's a great defender. He can make an open shot. And my message to our coaching staff before we started the summer, and my message to this team, as the summer went on, is that, man, we don't need our guards to win the game, but we don't need them to lose the game. You got to take care of the ball. You got to, you know, not turn it over. We got to get guys in place. It's going to be it's going to be a different team. We'll have to play through, those guys. We'll also have to play through our bigs. So that's going to be different. And I think we got two elite shooters, really good shooters. Kawasi Reeves is back. He's back for his last year. He got hurt early on, and that hurt his last season. But obviously, if there was a an MVP of the summer, I think Kawasi would have been right up there along with Bai, and then a guy I'm gonna talk about after I talk about Wasey. But Wasey, he knows the program. He's bought in, and he, it's funny because going into year three between him and Bai, you have guys that can echo your words and they know exactly what you're talking about and what things mean. And then one of the guys that I'm excited about, I'm really excited about Cam Craft. When I tell you, I haven't been around a guy in college that can knock down shots the way he can. He can make and take tough shots, and he does a great job coming off screens. He's getting a little better, and a little better than what people think. Probably in handling and making plays, out of ball screens as well.
You mentioned Pacific, and we've talked for years, you and I. And I don't think people fully appreciate what you did by going there, which is, look, I've been doing this a long time. I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the top, whatever, 12, 15 conferences in the country. No
Right.
question. No question. And you went there and, you won. You maybe didn't win at an elite level, but you won something I hadn't done. You did it the right way. And then, you go back to the NBA and then you get this one. And like, you are a great example of someone who said, you know what? I don't want a handout. I'm going to earn this. I'm going to be an assistant at various levels. I'm going to take a hard job before I get the job that you have now. And so from my outside, I appreciate what you did to get to where you are. When you look back at your journey, how would you describe it?
I mean, you know, I describe it the same way. I think a lot of times people assume because I played basketball, played in the NBA, that things were handed to me. But I tell this story all the time, and I tell it to young assistants especially. Because everybody's not going to be chosen a chosen one. So most of us can't skip steps to success. And we got to build, we got to build, we got to build. And so, even my first 2 years as a coach, I didn't get paid. And a lot of it, yeah, there's a lot of different layers to that, but I still didn't get paid regardless. It doesn't matter. I didn't get paid.
Wait,
And
which
so
stop
for
was that
me,
again?
I was at Rice, and then I
Right.
went
Okay.
back into the Memphis Grizzlies after Rice. And
Right.
so,
Okay.
it was more about the experience for me. I'm big on to the best of my ability, knowing what I'm doing. I was under a couple, well, more than a couple great coaches, but I was under some really, really good coaches, really successful coaches, and I learned so much. And when I even think back through the process of the guys who I sat on the bench with, and as guys have went on to other places and had success, both as head coaches and assistants, I just been fortunate. And so for me, it's just really, at times just sometimes, my voice is heard, and then sometimes you got to listen and you just got to grow. And then you get your opportunity. But again, going to Pacific was when it was, let me tell you, it was, I say this all the time. For me, people talk, talk about that job, but man, I'm thankful to Ted Leland. I'm thankful to, all the people there that helped me because you know what? They gave me my shot. That's all I wanted. I wanted a shot. And so when you just want a shot, you got to make the best at what it is. And, from there, going to Boston, one of the best experiences I had. And, for people out there in the East and the Northeast, I just had no clue being a West Coast guy, what it meant to be a part of the Boston Celtics organization until I got there. And it was the elite of elite. And it doesn't matter if you went to the corner grocery store, or you were walking down the street, middle of the city, or you were in Chestnut Hill. Don't matter. People still. If I go to Boston or I'm in airport, thanks, man. We miss you in Boston, and so that was just, man, that was just one on one, and this experience at Tech right now, it's. I don't want to sit up here and say that I put all my eggs into this year, but I would be lying if I wouldn't be disappointed if we wasn't a tournament team.
Well, I mean, you guys, I mean, like I said, you're right there to do it. Now it all comes down to putting it all together and the execution. Um, you've gone back and forth with the NBA, and there was a time where everyone in college needed to go that route. Maybe there was more money and all that. Now it feels like we got guys coming the other way again.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Luke, down at Florida State.
Yeah, Luke
You got
Locks.
Kevin
Yep.
Young at
Yeah.
BYU.
Yeah.
Um, it's happening this direction now. Why do you think that
Yeah.
is?
I think guys want shots. I really do. I believe that there's a fraction of a lot of people that want, I think, new coaches, younger coaches and guys that maybe don't have a lot of track record. They want them to get track records. We had so many great coaches come through, and it's crazy, because a lot of the great coaches, in a lot of respects, I was recruited by some of them. That's what makes it so crazy. When I look at guys that are, up there and are Hall of Fame coaches that are in college, but we actually, I think the college game needs more younger guys to be successful. And I'm not necessarily a younger guy, I'm a younger coach, but we just need more. We need more guys to have sustained success. And I think, to me, that's the beauty of where college is right now, because the game has changed. I think it's a lot like the NBA. And I think that you'll see more of it. And it's going to have to be alignments between, administration and staffs. And it's teaching each other, because I think a lot of the old blue book is out the window. And so everybody has to adjust on the run, and it can't be as guarded as it once was. I think that it was too guarded. I mean, you think about this, right? I always say this. This is just one example of how, to me, this is the NBA way. Like, I don't know why we can't have all of our coaches on the floor, because it's damn near impossible to try to have coaches go recruit and then keep the guys on campus happy. You know what I mean? So, some of us have went to the general managers and things of that nature. But man, that it's so crazy, you know, within the last couple of years. I'm talking to agents. I'm talking to agents in respect that some of them was trying to represent me when I was playing in the NBA. And so that's where that's where it becomes crazy. And so I don't want to negotiate no contracts. I want to coach basketball. I don't want to do all that other stuff, man. That's too much. That's wearing too many hats. And so I think that's one of the, I think that's one of the things that, one of the reasons why, and I'm not for sure all the reasons why, but I see that we see some of our Hall of Fame coaches that have retired. They got track records, and they've done enough in this game to where they can set it down and go watch now. But a lot of the rest of us, we got to deal with what's going on because we want to get to where they are, and so that's what I think that we're fighting now. But I do think it's going to take an alignment. I think adjusting on the run is what I talk about a lot at Tech, and I think that a lot of people probably need to do the same around the country.
All right, last couple quick things. First of all, I've asked this to your peers. I was talking to Penny about this, Penny Hardaway. Um, you were a great player, but you worked your tail off. You had to earn it. How hard is it to get your players to understand that the best player probably needs to be the hardest worker?
Yeah, I think that is I think it's hard. I think it is hard. I think that we'll take Bai for instance, and Bai. I mean, I light into him. I mean, I know what I know. What I mean, and so if you set the tone with your best player, then everybody else got to fall in line. And so having the work ethic, and guys are getting paid, and there's a responsibility to come with that money. What I mean? And I think that we don't it doesn't need to be talked about, but I talk about it with our guys, and I only talk about it with them because it's really what's going on. And so there is a responsibility with that. You can't get the money and hide, so to speak. That's what they used to tell us when we were in the pros. You can't get the money and hide. People call you out. We're I would assume we're only months to a year away from, hey, look, Andy, you guys will know what guys are actually making. It won't be guesstimating, and then you guys will be talking about the same thing. Why is this guy getting paid this money? So it's conversations that need to be had, and so you have to work hard. You can't get content, or an old term, you can't get fat by getting the money now, and not with everybody, but some players. I think that they get complacent when they getting this money now, and to me, I can't say what I would do if I was getting the type of money that some of these guys are getting. But all I know is when I was their age, when I got a little bit, I wanted more. So every time I had success, it just made me hungry for more success. And so I think that that's the approach that I would like to see these young fellas take, because man, this little money that they getting, this nothing but you can go set your parents up for life. You can set them up for life. So now when you get to the next level, now you got some financial literacy. You got an asset, possibly helped your parents get out of debt. To me, these are the things that they need to be doing. This money can't set you up for life. It can give you a good start in life, but it ain't gonna set you up for life. So um, I would like to see guys stay hungry and do those things, because that's the continued trajectory of a great player.
Last two things. Coach's Challenge will happen this season. What are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts?
I like it. I like it. I don't want the game to slow though. That is a problem. I don't want to have to go to the monitor, every time something happens. I think that, it breaks the rhythm up of the game. It can help you if you're losing, but if you're winning, the rhythm of the game gets thrown off a bit. But I do like the challenge. I wish there was a better way than just the than how it's done though at the same time. But I'm looking forward to it.
Last thing, this won't happen this year, but it's on the table. Quarters or halves? What do you think men's college basketball should do?
We should be quarters, and in the game we should be able to advance the ball. Like I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. Like, you can't, like, we like like when somebody scores in point, and there's point one, point 2 seconds on that, it's the good Lord helping you if you make that shot. Like, what I mean? Not to say that's what it is if you can advance the ball. But I think that'll bring, a little more to the game. It now it makes it more strategic. I think from that standpoint, if you could advance the ball, and I love the fact that the women, do everything that I feel like we should be doing. But that would be great if we could if we play quarters and we can advance the ball.
Awesome. Well, I'm feeling good about Georgia Tech. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen this year.
Appreciate that, Andy. Thank you, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right.
Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And as always, you can follow all our social media content at the Sideline with a K. Our content appears on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. Check out all the content at the Sideline with a K.